Hi guys, in this video I'll give you a full update on my progress with the Kickstart scheme. So a few months ago I started with the Kickstart scheme and I created a video back then as well. Now, in case you haven't seen the video, in case you don't know what the scheme is, I'll briefly just let you know what it's all about, and then I'll give you an update on my progress with the scheme. And I'm about 3.5 to 4 months in with the scheme and hiring employees with the scheme. So basically, what is it all about? So the Kickstart scheme is a scheme devised by the UK government, which I guess was really in the wake of the impact to the economy caused by all the lockdowns because of COVID. And it basically enables employers to employ young people who are aged 16 to 24 for 5 hours a day for 5 days a week, so that's 25 hours a week on a 6-month contract. But the best bit, the very best bit, is that the government reimburses the employer for the young person's wages. The UK government also gives you £1,500 per person that you take on for training. You schedule your time with that young person to give them training, or you outsource different forms of training. My own kind of personal feedback on the scheme, I think overall, just absolutely freaking amazing. There was a lot that I had to learn very quickly. You know, being someone who's run their own businesses and only used freelancers, I had no idea what a workplace pension was. Just absolutely none. I had no idea how PAYE operated. There was a lot of research that I needed to do. But once I got my head around all of that, and I had my first couple of Kickstart employees in place, then it really allowed me to, I guess, expand my operation, my little empire, if I call it that. I can't call it an empire, it's not an empire at all. But it basically enabled me to start building an online presence with a social media manager, which I've really never been able to do. I've always found it just so freaking hard trying to build a social presence and schedule social media posts. A lot of my time is really taken up with developing comedy production projects. The other thing I couldn't do before, I found it very, very hard to actually create content like this. Having a video editor and a social media manager, it allowed me to create different YouTube projects. And I've got this channel that I'm creating content for. I've got another few channels that I'm kind of messing with. I'm just chucking lots of things at the wall. There's a project called Comedy Love Doctors where I do like quite edgy comedy with comedians. We try and resolve Dear Deirdre type problems. There's another project called Newsageddon where I do like very ranty bits about the news, which I might drop that channel. I'm not really sure about that channel, but I'm trying that as well. And there's like a brand new channel that I'm due to start in the next few days called Scam Busters, where I'll be scam baiting scammers in different call centers. The most coolest things that has happened recently is that I wrapped on a sitcom pilot, and comedy production really is at the kind of the heart of what I want to be doing with my life. It's like my biggest career ambition, to have the career of a comedy producer. And having a video editor work on that allowed a very quick turnaround time in production standards on that pilot. I'm now pitching. I'm now sending the sitcom pilot out there to see if anyone is interested in it. With all that said, it hasn't all been plain sailing. If you have been in business for a little while, absolutely go for the program. I don't think if you're brand spanking new in business, you go for the program. You might want to check that out. But on the flip side, let's look at the flip side, shall we? Now, communication is quite tricky at the best of times. You see, what you basically have at the top of the tree is you have the DWP. Now, the DWP is the Department for Work and Pensions. And they filter their information down to the different stages and the different people who are involved with the scheme. So information is filtered down from the DWP, first of all, to the job centre, because it's at the job centre where you'll get most of your applicants coming through. What I have found, and I've dealt with a few different job work coaches now who work at job centres, a lot of the time they are just misinformed or they misinterpret the information. So for example, I had one candidate who she looked absolutely amazing. She was really, really good. And this scheme, right? The scheme is only available for 16 to 24-year-olds. Now, one job centre work coach basically said a candidate who I was really interested in because she turned 25 3 months into what would have been my employment term with her, he thought she wasn't eligible. I double checked with the DWP, I went to the top of the tree, and that was completely false, completely wrong. And as a matter of fact, she is now working for me. She's a really fantastic video editor, and I really look forward to, doing some really cool projects with her. You've also got something called a Kickstart Gateway. It's basically someone who will relay information between yourself and the DWP. So they're kind of like a middleman who are meant to monitor and manage all your communications. So for example, I've got a Kickstart Gateway, which is the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce. So if there's anything that I'm meant to need for my Kickstart employees or anything I need to clarify, then I'm meant to go to the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce, and then someone there basically passes my communication on to the DWP, and it's just a way for the DWP, I guess, to manage the communications and the requests that they get. One of the big problems I had recently between my Kickstart Gateway and the DWP really boiled down to the issue of when a role can be recycled. What is the cut-off period as an employer as to when you could just simply rehire someone for that role? And I was told by my Kickstart Gateway that cut-off period was 16 weeks. The employee who gave in her resignation, I think she was about 11 to 12 weeks in. I kind of figured out, okay, that's just about underneath the cut-off. I could just simply rehire someone for that role, and I won't lose the rest of that funding. However, the Kickstart Gateway was completely wrong, and it wasn't just the single person that I was dealing with at the Kickstart Gateway. Everyone within their organization was just completely bemused, and this was just like brand new news that I was giving them, because when I kind of double checked it with the DWP, kind of went over my Kickstart Gateway's head just to double check, they came back and said, no, it's 6 weeks, it's definitely 6 weeks. And whenever I get conflicting information like this, especially when there are multiple people within an organization and deal with calls, I like double checking. I like double checking. So I double checked with several people in different departments at the DWP, and every single one of them came back with 6 weeks. My big point of all of this is that whenever there is a middle entity, a middleman inside of a communication chain, and you're at one end and the decision makers are at the other end, then always double check the facts. My only other criticism with the Kickstart scheme, it takes a while. The process of actually hiring someone through the scheme from start to finish can take up to about 3 months, and within 3 months in business, especially in small to medium-sized businesses, I guess more in small businesses, a lot can change. As an example, you could create a job spec for a position in January, but when you get to March, April time, to the point where the Kickstart scheme employee has actually been approved and you can start advertising for that person to join your employment, your needs could be completely different, and then you need to go back to the Kickstart Gateway, and then they have to communicate with the DWP in order to get the whole thing amended, and it can just be a bit on the messy side. Now, I don't want any of those rants or those points to really take away from how great this scheme is and how just absolutely amazing it has been for me and my business. So look, if you're based in the UK, thought and wondered about what it'd be like being a employer and how you could forward your business with a employee, then 100% just dive straight in, get yourself signed up, find a local Kickstart Gateway, and get the ball rolling with the whole process. Thanks for watching, guys. Oh, and I have no idea what was happening with my hair throughout that video. Obviously, way too much mousse, which made me look like the guy from Home Alone as he got electrocuted. But all that aside, thanks again for watching. Please do hit that like button, leave me a comment below, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.